Hi guys, here's some instructions for your spelling quiz. It's a little different than what we normally do. So, when you open the document, you should be able to get a document, excuse me, that looks like this, where it says Lessons 19 to 23 Review Quiz at the top. All right, make sure you put your name in there, okay? And so you just click in and you can write your name. Now, if things get a little pushed aside and that kind of thing, you can just leave it as is. It's no big deal at all, right? The date today is March 27th, okay? And I'm not too worried about the signature if you're doing it this way. Okay? You'll see the directions are under here. It says, as you read through these paragraphs, look at the bold words. So bold means that they have the darker writing. Each of these is a spelling word from our last 5 weeks of spelling, and it's spelled wrong. Change the word so it's spelled correctly. There are also 10 punctuation mistakes in the paragraphs. 2 sentence enders, 2 commas, 2 capitals, 2 quotation marks, and 2 apostrophes. Fix each mistake. You can type directly on the document, turn it into Mr. Kimball when you're finished. Now, if you're having trouble typing right into the document and you want to write out the spelling words, I'll show you how to do that after we've gone through this way of doing the quiz. So you can hand it into me 2 ways. Here's the first way. The first way is to type directly on here. So you can see it says, the fur trade in Alberta. The fur trade began before Alberta was even a province. In 1670, the King of England gave the Hudson's Bay Company the freedom. Now, you see the word freedom here. That's bold, and it's spelled wrong. So what I would want you to do is I'd want you to go in and change it so that it's spelled correctly. So say you thought freedom was spelled like, oh, that should actually be an I, Mr. Kimball. And, this should also be an I, Say that's how you thought freedom was spelled. Change it so it's spelled the way you think it's correct, okay? The freedom to trade with First Nations. The HBC became a very powerful company. So the second word is powerful, but that's spelled wrong. So go in and change it so that it's spelled right. They were the only ones allowed to approach. Approach is spelled wrong. Make it so it's right. They were the only ones allowed to approach First Nations and try to buy their furs. In the story, The Fur Trade, author Pierce Jones describes the meetings between the two groups. He says, sometimes these meetings could be awkward. So awkward is the 4th word. Make sure it's spelled right. Could be awkward as each group spoke a different language. In the end, they had to learn sign language or get interpreters to communicate. Next paragraph. At first, the traders always traveled to the First Nations camps. They would launch, there's a word that's spelled wrong. Make it so it's right. They would launch their canoes into the river and travel from one group to the next. These fur traders, known as coureurs de bois, were praised. Praised is spelled wrong. Change it so it's right. Were praised for their hard work and bravery. The traders' trips sometimes required them to portage, carry their canoes across fields. Fields is spelled wrong. Across fields or through forests. After a while, the HBC and their rival, the Northwest Company, set up forts. Where would they put them? Usually near a river or meadow. Meadow is spelled wrong. Usually near a river or meadow where the fort wouldn't be hard to get to. At the forts, First Nations could trade in their furs, and in exchange they would receive is spelled wrong, they would receive metal goods, beads, and spices. The fur trade forts would look at the furs, assess the quality, and weigh them. Weigh, that's spelled wrong. And weigh them before deciding how valuable each fur was. The forts always kept what the fur trappers wanted on hand because if they were to disappoint, that's spelled wrong. Make sure you get it spelled right. Were to disappoint the trappers, they might not come back. It might be hard to believe, but believe, that word spelled wrong. It might be hard to believe, but the most important animal of the fur trade was the beaver. We often think of them as animals who only gnaw. Gnaw is spelled wrong. Who only gnaw on trees or build dams. But to the fur traders, beavers were very valuable. The reason, that's not right. Spell that right, please. The reason there was a huge demand for beaver fur in Europe was because it was used to make hats. After a while, the amount is the next word that needs to be spelled correctly. After a while, the amount of beavers in Alberta got very low. The fur trade had almost destroyed. Oh, destroyed. That's not how you spell that. Change it so it's right. The fur trade had almost destroyed the beaver in Alberta. What people like changes, and that's what happened with the hollow. Hollow is the next word. Make it so it's spelled right. That's what happened with the hollow beaver fur hats. Although, this word although, that's not how you spell that. Spell it right, please. Although the HBC and NWC were successful for a time, eventually the fur trade slowed down, causing, you're gonna have to spell that one correctly. Slowed down, causing the companies to combine into one. This fact displays, that's not how we spell that. Change it so it's right, please. This fact displays how a once thriving business can have tough times because of changes in style. The fur trade was very important in Alberta's history. It is a part of our heritage. Okay? So you can go through that document and change those words so it's right, so they're spelled right. And don't forget that there are 10 other mistakes in that document. Now, say you're having trouble putting the stuff in, and you just want to write it out by hand. I've put the spelling words on the next page, just how they were spelled throughout the document. So say you were just putting them on a separate piece of paper, you can just take these 20 words and just make a list, put numbers 1 to 20 and spell them as best you can. And then if you're doing it that way, I won't worry about you finding the mistakes in the punctuation mistakes in the document, all right? Since we're doing this remotely, we have to kind of change the way we do things. So hopefully that gives you the explanation you need. Good luck, guys, and I'll see you later.